And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you all for joining us. Tom Munns, TomMunns.com joins us now. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me this morning.
Oh, thanks for your patience, little buddy.
Happy Independence yesterday. I wondered if people were celebrating democracy and socialism yesterday, or they're actually celebrating independence, or whether they even knew which one that they were celebrating. I walked into several stores yesterday, and it was kind of interesting. There was red, white, and blue balloons and napkins and all of that. And I said, hey, is there any evidence of Independence Day? He said, look, man, we're not here to celebrate Independence Day. We're here to make money. And I said, so to you, it's really nothing more than Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving or Valentine's Day. And he said, that's right. And so I was pondering that yesterday as he was telling me that he had children. And I was asking him yesterday about if he felt like it was important to feed the kids, why it wasn't important to try to maintain their freedom. But anyway, I had a comment about what Liberal Steve was saying about Paulette Jordan. And I think the Republicans in this state, the voting Republicans, I hope they're not too confident because, I get to travel like and the state trend is to pull money back from the Republicans to be able to try to crush the establishment by voting in Democrats. So, I've mentioned this before. This is a pretty dangerous type of an issue. I've got, friends that argue with me saying, well, we need to upseat the establishment. And if the establishment can't even recognize the fact that people want to legalize, CBD oil and marijuana and that kind of thing,
right?
People would vote for Paulette Jordan just because of that.
Well, let me jump in here for a minute, Tom, if I may. Since it is the 5th of July, so it's you and me and everybody else who's working today. So you would have to have people, and I went over this. I think it would have been more in line if Congressman Labrador would have won or Dr. Alquist would have won. You would have had people call them the establishment, call them what you will, would be not putting their money into the coffers of those candidates, would not vote because their candidate didn't win. I don't see the conservatives not voting for Brad Little out of spite because they lost.
Well, and the problem is that a lot of people don't see that. And so my follow-up to that was I believe that the GOP confidence comes from not only because of the fact that we've been Republican as long as we've been, but the power of the money behind Otter PAC. And I believe that the confidence comes from either the money behind Otter PAC, which is part of it, or the fear of the Democrat victory. Now, they might not feel like the Democrats can win, but my point behind that is that the citizens are fearful of a Democratic win, not necessarily the Republican Party itself.
I would say if it were A.J. Belukoff, but the city of Boise, they've taken over that, but there's not enough libs, there's not enough Democrats, and the Republicans just will overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Eventually, the numbers betray you. And Paulette Jordan, while trying to appear to be mainstream, she's for the guns, she's for this, she's for that. She's not A.J. Belukoff. Belukoff would have been a much more dangerous candidate to a Brad Little or to a Raul Labrador or to a Dr. Alquist. And if you're an Otter PAC person, if you're a person that loved what Governor Otter did and support the lieutenant governor, the primary broke perfectly for you because you had two people, the doctor and the congressman, drawing from the same trough. So as the congressman said at the convention in Pocatello, 63% of the people didn't vote for you. That doesn't mean that they're going to go to Paulette Jordan. Brad Little is a likable guy. He has worked very hard. Some would say his positives could eventually, if they haven't already, surpassed Governor Otter's because we've had Governor Otter around for so many years. Brad Little has been around, but he's a fresh face. I could see that if it had been Dr. Alquist or Congressman Labrador. I don't see that with Brad Little, and I don't think she's a mainstream candidate. And she's kind of robotic, too, when she speaks. Nothing against her, but, hey, I mean, at 38, I wish I would have been running for governor. I just don't think – but then again, Tom, I thought Belukoff would wipe the floor up with her, and he didn't. So back to the point at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Outside the city of Boise, you travel a lot. There's no love for the Democrats, right?
There actually is, and that's why I had called and kind of issued a little bit of caution here. And the other thing that I wanted to leave with you real quick is this.
Well, no, before you leave with me real quick, give me an example of that, please, of how the libs are taking over other places.
So we were at we had a county commissioner forum this year. Had all the commissioners out here in Canyon County come, and it was really good. And they said something very intriguing and something really, quite honestly, that I didn't even think about, even with my involvement. And that is, Tom, it really doesn't matter how we feel on an issue. It's really all a matter of what we can, what we're allowed to do. And so, when Paulette Jordan can say, well, she supports guns, then why is she being supported by the number one anti-gunner billionaire, George Soros, then?
Well, there's a way to come back at her, and it was brought up, I believe, by Joe Paris at the debate. You say you're for guns, but you were at the big anti-gun rally. If you're at the, you can't have it both ways. Well, blah, 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 and then she, parses it a little. That's what leaves her open, okay?
Well, I think the fight is, well, we want to legalize, we want to legalize marijuana, so we're going to vote for Paulette Jordan, and if she tries to come for our guns, she can pry them from our cold, dead hands. And I just, I don't necessarily see that as a very thought out statement either. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I know that people are more and more increasingly, disgruntled about the control of the party, especially when I called the Republican Party the other day and I said, I know you guys are anti-Trump, but do you know where I can get a Trump hat? Because
wait a minute, you're saying that the Idaho Republican Party is anti-Trump.
I believe that if I understand it correctly, I believe that they were.
Well, no, you have to give me an example. And I'm not sitting there saying to being a tough guy here, but people listening are going to say Tom is just running off at the mouth. Give me an example.
And they might say, why is that a surprise?
You and me both, brother.
When I was at the convention, and I guess it would depend on how you define the Republican Party, but when I was at the convention, it was pretty clear to me that that when Trump had been, the
which convention, Tom?
What?
Which convention?
The state convention
in Pocatello.
Not this last one, the one before that.
Okay, well that was a long time ago, Tom.
Well, it doesn't matter if they were anti-Trump then, and then you had Crapo come out and make his statements or Risch or, whoever it was. Some of these GOP candidates clearly weren't in support of Trump. So I guess I couldn't say that the whole entire Republican Party was, but I'll tell you there was tremendous apathy and lack of celebration when he was the chosen nominee. So that's where I got my understanding of that from.
That was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah. It was.
Right, and you had you had a lot of people that were pro Ted Cruz. So we're kind of going in a circular way here. Back to your point, though. How close do you think it'll be? I think she gets wiped out by 20 or 30 points.
Oh, I think she'll probably get wiped out for sure. My thought, though, is to be able to kind of bring you guys in on a perspective that I'm seeing traveling statewide with people's dissatisfaction of the Republicans and their failure to understand what the conservatives really want.
Well, here's the other one, and I say this with Tea Party Bob. They had their chance, and their candidate lost.
Yep.
Isn't that really what it is? Yep. And it broke right for the lieutenant governor.
Yeah, it did. It really the victory really surprised me too. So, anyway, well. I wasn't scripted this morning, as you can tell, but I appreciate you having me on this morning.
I appreciate you calling in anytime.
All right, man. See ya. You guys have a good one.
Thank you. Our great friend Tom Munns, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, the lieutenant governor, we saw him on the trail a couple of weeks ago. He's about the only one I know that's running. What time, and if you don't believe me that the November election is already over, where have all the candidates been? Okay, maybe they were in the parades yesterday, and I don't know if that was Russ Fulcher and Star, but there was a guy with a long coat and a long hat. And the only reason why I was there is my wife needed me to pick her up. Because like Ray of Maya, when it's day off. It's checkout day for all of us. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, what type of, political competitive climate do we have in this state where after the primary, everybody's taking 2 or 3 months off, with the exception of Brad Little. You see him out working and everything else. Well, Kevin, Dr. Ahlquist is back to private life. Congressman Labrador is back to being a congressman. Yeah, but I'm talking about people running for Congress, the lieutenant governor, all these folks. If this were a competitive race, and I don't really know much about the lieutenant governor's race. I know Janice McGeehan's a very nice, very well-qualified young lady. You have to win that competitive primary between all those big names, and I still miss my man Nonini. Idaho still needs Nonini, friends. However, I don't know what the Dems are going to do with the lieutenant governor. But if you have Brad Little at the top of the ticket, I just don't see the blue wave coming to Idaho. There's just not enough of them outside the city of Boise. Let's go to Pete in Mountain Home on this post-holiday soiree. Good morning, sir. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. I'm going to kind of disagree with Tom there. I supported Ted Cruz back in the primary days, and I supported Raul Labrador. And we went through the primary election, and we had winners, and that's who I support, because when I look at whoever is running on the Democrat side and I look at the positions that their national party takes, and I don't care if Paulette claims that, well, she's her own person. She's not the national party. I don't care. If you're running as a Democrat, your platform is a Democrat Party platform. And I look at what Donald Trump has done, and, hey, he won me on the Supreme Court. As far as I was concerned, the people he's putting on the Supreme Court, anything else he does is gravy, man, and he's doing a lot, I think. And I will support the candidate that most closely reflects my personal values, and certainly in Idaho, that's the Republican. And, hey, it may not be the guy I voted for, but I'm still going to be out there voting for Brad Little.
Yeah, and that's the quandary in this state where you had so many people that were for Cruz. That was a few years ago. Times have changed. Donald Trump is the president. He's done a great job.
Absolutely.
And remember, Pete, all the ads, I'm pro-Trump. No, I'm pro-Trump. No, I'm pro-Trump. Obviously, the president's popularity does appeal to people here in Idaho, and I don't see any Democrat winning any state office or any congressional office. They might as well just put it in the tank, save their money, and move to Montana.
Well, actually, I think they should move to California.
There's a lot of real estate available in California from what I hear.
Yeah, let's not wish them on Montana. Montana has enough problems.
Yeah, Montana.
Maybe they could move to Seattle.
Here's the weird thing about Montana. Now, Pete, do you watch TV at all?
No, I don't even have one.
Good for you.
I am that far out of the world.
This Montana, it's like Idaho but bigger. And you got a lot of people from California, and they got this new series called Yellowstone on with Kevin Costner. But it's fascinating because you've had John Tester elected in California, or in Montana, a Democrat who squeaks by time and time again.
Yeah, that is weird.
And you can tell the president wants to play because he's going to Montana, and we're a victim of our own success. We're so Republican. There's no reason for the president to come here. We'd like the president to come here. We're working on that. But if you're in a contested state, that happens. And here's the other one that's fascinating. If the president were close to any of the candidates, why didn't he play, as had been rumored, that he would play in the Idaho primary? He never did. He didn't campaign for anybody. He's campaigned in the South Carolina primary and others, but he didn't play in Idaho.
Yeah, that's a good question. That maybe because he figured whoever Idaho selected would be good with him.
But remember, you have Congressman Labrador that campaigned for him, and people thought that in the end Trump would come in and give the endorsement. That never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
there'll be no Paulette Jordan as governor, though.
I sort of doubt it. I just, she just is, Well, she's a socialist. She's admitted that.
Well, and the media is going to try and create this because they've got to have something to do, and they've got to gin up the ad sales. So.
Oh, yeah. I've even seen, I'll admit it, I have seen even one or two bumper stickers here in Mountain Home for her, which I found shocking, just shocking.
Wow.
But, we're tolerant here. We we don't tip their cars over and burn them or anything, and we don't, we don't yell at them. If we see them in a restaurant, we don't scream at them.
Right.
In fact, I know somebody who voted for Bernie Sanders, and I talked to him.
He voted for a socialist.
Well, not quite as bad as Liberal Steve.
Well, there's nothing that's quite as bad as Liberal Steve. Pete, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, our great friend Pete in Mountain Home from Ohio, where all good things come from. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling around, thank you for joining us. Remember, Girls with Guns, it's back, everybody. KIDOTalkRadio.com for more details. And joining us now, perennial candidate, everyone's All-American, the original Idaho potato, pro-life on KIDO Talk Radio. Howdy-ho.
Yeah, well, Paulette Jordan doesn't have a chance, and neither do any Democrats unless they're in North Boise area and maybe Pocatello, Moscow, and Sun Valley. And that's not very much of the population. The national Democrats are causing places like Idaho Democrats to be very unpopular. And the media's got a lot to do with it. The media is so crooked. And, when you think about media, you never hear anything about the world for U.S. media. Like right now in Nigeria, the Islamic people are killing lots and lots of Christians. Most people don't even know anything about that. There's a big war going on in Yemen, lots of people dying. And we just get screened into what's going on with Trump, and I don't like it at all. And Fox does it. All of them do it. And so I'm totally disgusted with media. And maybe, you could have some kind of a once an hour or something, have something about somewhere else in the world except the United States. I don't know if you've ever thought of that or not, but
the international hour?
Yeah, an international 5 minutes even. That's all.
This ain't the BBC, brother.
No, I know, but you could just go to BBC and mimic them.
You know what happens when you get outside of your area of jurisdiction? You take your eye off. You take your eye off the ball. There are many people that are in media and markets like this. And it's I say this to my family and friends quite honestly. People are always auditioning for the next big gig, right? They see a big story, they own it, and because God has blessed me with early on in my career of being at the pinnacle, of being on 48 Hours, the Today Show, blah, 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 Washington Post, New York Times, go on. That's not my point in life. And as we've said many times, our goal is to be Ada and Canyon County and the surrounding counties here. Now, we do talk national politics. If I had my way, we would be talking all local all the time. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have a lot of local content. In fact, I was watching Channel 7 the other day, and we've gone from the horrific story that happened at the Wiley Street Apartments on State Street, there off State Street, to a lead story where somebody's bike was stolen. Now, that's not to be critical of Channel 7. They're the best. We're proud to be associated with them. They've won 2 National Murrow Awards this year and a couple last year, and they kill it. That's just the news of the day, that somebody's bike was stolen. And it was a package by a local product, Morgan Bornston, who she's going to be she'll be a network if she wants to be. She's that good. But how they win is they focus on what's here. I want to be here with you for many more years, and that's my goal. I don't know, occasionally we have Simon Owen on from London. We have, a couple people on from Tokyo to do international stuff, but to do an international thing every hour for 5 minutes, that's outside my pay grade, old friend.
Well, I guess you're right. I think you have to stick to local. I know that. And,
so back to the libs. You're out on the road all the time. Do you think the libs have a chance, or are you with me that it's going to be a blue trickle, not a wave?
Well, the Republicans are libs in my world, and they have every chance because they're a different brand of libs. But
you're saying
a
Democrat is a more honest lib because at least they say they're a lib.
Yeah, at least they say they're socialists, and then the Republicans are socialists, but they'll say that socialism is bad, but then they just go ahead and vote for every socialist program.
Besides Michael Snyder, is there any good Republican?
Well, I don't know. I don't think there is. You just I'll bet you over at the convention in Pocatello, there was not one mention of the moral issues. You know, I brought up about how the doctor up there in Moscow is doing transgender operations. I think that should be outlawed in Idaho.
See, but
nobody wants to even talk about it.
You don't hear it on national shows either. I do it, but I do it at my own detriment because nobody wants to talk about social, moral, or ethics anymore. That's why everybody goes, I'm a libertarian. That's the easy way out. Hey, thank you for calling and listening today. I appreciate you, brother.
Well, God bless you, and let's save the babies. We got too many murdered babies. And
right. Save the babies and sperm meek's egg. You heard it here first.
Right. God bless you.
God bless you, my friend. All right, Pro-Life joining us. Traffic and...
Was every Gibbard.
Kevin Miller in the morning. We are rolling along. More of your phone calls next on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. KIDO Talk Radio to the White House. John Decker joins us. John, happy, post-holiday in America today. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. Happy post-holiday to you too, Kevin.
So the president gets close to us, but not close enough. He's on his way to Montana.
Yes, Big Sky Country. The president leaves in just a few hours. He'll be doing a campaign rally in Great Falls, Montana, trying to raise the prospects for the Republican who will be challenging Jon Tester on the ballot in the midterm elections. The president, I think, is someone who's very popular in Montana. He won the state by 20 points. But Tester is the early favorite to win re-election in November. He really knows the state well. He describes himself as a true Montanan. And his opponent, State Auditor Matt Rosendale, moved to Montana from Maryland in 2002. And some of his critics describe him as Maryland Matt.
I don't know. And John Decker, you live a good life, so you don't watch television. But I'm watching this Yellowstone with Kevin Costner, and Montana's next door to us. You have a lot of people moving in from California, a lot of people moving in from other places. The state is changing a little, so you have these lifelong Montanans versus the folks coming in. Maybe that plays in this election.
I think it will. I think that Jon Tester has really done well in terms of heeding to what Montanans generally want in that state. I've seen one poll which has him about 50% heading into the midterms. And, Jon Tester is someone who is a third-generation farmer. When the Senate's not in session, he goes back to Montana and spends 12 hours a day farming on the family farm. So, I think that Montanans, to a certain extent, they recognize that he hasn't forgotten where he came from. Yes, he's been sent to Washington to represent the state, but also he comes back home to do this other work that he's been doing all his life.
And he legitimately does it. There was a glowing profile of him in the New York Times. I'm friends with his nephew. I've met him a few times, and he's about as well away from the lawyerly, doctorly, elite class of folks that usually make up elected senators, I guess. And pardon me for my ignorance on that one, John, but I mean, he is a legitimate blue-collar guy.
No, I think that's right. I think that what you see generally in the U.S. Senate are a lot of millionaires, some billionaires, and that's not Jon Tester. Jon Tester, as you mentioned, born, raised in Montana, and he's someone who is as you mentioned, blue collar. He lost when he was just 9 years old his three middle fingers of his left hand in a meat grinder accident. That's not something that many millionaires generally have any experience with, a meat grinder. But that's something obviously that Jon Tester is familiar with, and he's been involved in politics for some time. I think since 1999, got elected to the Montana Senate, and here he is in the U.S. Senate. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and that's always like a point of conversation with him. He'll shake your hand or do something kind of crazy. He's very informal. You take a look at Tester. He's got about 6.5 million, and the Republicans are just coming off a pretty competitive primary. So his challenger could be, is right now going to be outspent by Tester. And let's face it, not a lot of big media in Montana. So you hit Billings, you hit a few others, and you're pretty much covered.
Well, that's true, but sometimes that has an impact of having a reverse effect. If it looks like you're trying to buy an election, people of a certain state, maybe Montanans, I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody from Montana, but maybe they may be troubled by that. All the money that's being thrown into the race from outsiders, and of course, this individual Matt Rosendale has been a self-funder. I think he's put $3 million of his own money into this particular Senate race. So it cuts both ways. Yes, it does get you blanket coverage throughout the state, but also you have to avoid what some voters may think is that you might be trying to buy an election. Yeah,
it'll be fascinating. You would think if Tester were a Democrat, he'd be a perfect Trump guy, just based on his background.
Well, that's right. Montana is a state which I think overwhelmingly went for President Trump, won by 20 points. It was of all the states in our country, I think it was the state with the third largest margin for President Trump. But Montana also has, this history of sometimes sending Democrats to the Senate. Max Baucus comes to mind. He served the state quite a long time before becoming an ambassador. And so Jon Tester, I think knows the state fairly well. It's going to be close after all. President Trump's going there, and I don't think this is necessarily going to be his last trip, depending upon how the polls shake out in Montana. If it shows that Matt Rosendale is closing the gap, you're going to see the president back out in Montana before the November midterms.
Finally, the Supreme Court vote, does this play into this at all, John?
Well, it does. Jon Tester voted against the president's first choice for the U.S. Supreme Court, Neil Gorsuch, and the president will certainly bring that up to the people that turn out for that rally in Great Falls later today, this evening. And so, will that count for something? Sure. Now, Jon Tester, for his part, has taken out a newspaper ad, and I think about more than a dozen newspapers in Montana touting the fact that the president has signed numerous bills. I think it was 16 bills that Jon Tester either sponsored or co-sponsored. So that's a good way of answering that charge against the president.
John Decker, always on the scene. We appreciate you, sir.
Yep, absolutely. Anytime, Kevin. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Our great friend John Decker. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So if you're just waking up or you are working, I just want to give some props to people. And when I was younger, and throughout my career, I've worked in a variety of service-skilled jobs, and maybe you have as well, and maybe you do today. So I want to give props to everyone who worked yesterday and who works the holidays, whether you're in the service, whether you're in retail, whether you're in security, like our friend security guard Mike, or others. Sometimes the holidays can be very lonely. I always liked working the holidays because the bosses were always out of town. So it was really like getting paid to come in. In fact, this is one of the best weeks to work usually because the bosses are out of town, and then you take like the week off after the holiday or Christmas or what have you. But it was noticeable, the amount of people working on Independence Day. And for the people that put those great parades together, whether it's our friends at We the People here in Boise or in Star or in Middleton It's just amazing seeing everybody celebrating America. And we didn't do that under Obama. Not to this level. The president is bringing back the patriotism. Now, I have a few thoughts for you. Not to be confused with the ever-popular airing of the grievances. But we heard for months leading up to this that aerial fireworks in the state of Idaho, they're illegal. And look, it scares the heck out of me at night because, number one, I'm worried about somebody well-meaning that probably can list all the founding fathers because they care so much about America that they're shooting off fireworks at 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock at night in a quiet residential neighborhood, because really fireworks are all about patriotism. Somebody can explain that to me, that they feel so compelled to go out and spend a ton of money on fireworks, and they care so much about America that for the rest of us that have to get up and work or worried about, God forbid, somebody lighting our house on fire from a bottle rocket or a Roman candle or something of that nature, because it's really worth it to shoot off fireworks in the middle of the night if you're going to cost somebody their house. And last night was no exception. Maybe it was that way in your neighborhood as well. At 580-5436, why do we have a law if it's never enforced? Kevin, the jails would be filled. The jails would be filled if we had arresting people with fireworks, right? Shooting off illegal aerial fireworks. So then let's just punt. Let's just punt. And say the heck with it. Let's just punt and make aerial fireworks legal because we don't enforce the law anyway. Quite frankly, there are noise ordinances and everything else, and you can call me grumpy old man. At least I'm going to speak my mind about the insensitivity last night of people shooting off fireworks. Okay, you have these free fireworks displays, you have all this going on, and yet still people feel compelled at 2 or 3 in the morning, or for me, that's the equivalent of 10, 11 o'clock at night, shooting off fireworks. And then we have people on Facebook posting, hey, look at me, I got a Dandy Dan fireworks. Well, that's great for you. That's wonderful for you. That's exciting for you. But what about the rest of us? And I'm very blessed right now. I've got great neighbors. They are awesome. But I remember my first or second year in the neighborhood, they'd get out in the cul-de-sac and they'd watch the fireworks. And they'd go, woo, woo, woo. And I'm going, this is not Times Square. This is Idaho. And if we're not going to make the fireworks illegal, if we're not going to enforce the noise ordinances, if we're going to have the fire department on emergency alert standby. In fact, this is how weird it was last night. I was dreaming that I was watering my roof as the fireworks were shooting off. And then I remembered I wasn't watering my roof. I was sleeping. And people are going to say, Kevin Miller, it's no big deal. Let's have some fun. Okay, if it's legal, and the fireworks lobby is very important because you have laws that are impotent, laws that are neutered, right? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Seriously, we're not enforcing the laws, so why have them on the books? Now, maybe you disagree with me, and you think to yourself, Kevin Miller, this is a great time, this is wonderful, we should have the freedom to fire off as many fireworks as possible. Shame, shame, know your name. I disagree. If you have a law on the books, enforce it. If not, then Katie bar the door and let everyone, and I mean everyone, shoot their fireworks off like they did last night. And shouldn't we have a moratorium on them? And I remember when this first happened, people said, well, Kevin Miller, we can't have the sheriff's department arresting everybody. I guess. So that's the excuse. We have Chief Doan, the Boise Fire Police, making the statements, the news media echoing the statements, and nothing happens. Right? So much for that law that went into effect last night, huh? What a waste of time. I'd love to hear from you next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Eric in Cuna, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Morning, Kevin. Happy 5th of July.
Happy, brother.
happy. Hey, the fireworks. I don't even really, I don't go, I live out in Cuna. They don't light fireworks off out here, and I don't really feel like driving out of my way to see them. But, people light them off around here in the neighborhood. I was reading that Idaho is the second most dangerous state in the nation for fireworks. I actually think that's kind of cool. That makes us, we're tough here. When me and my friend, when I was a teenager, me and my friends, we would have like around 4th of July, we'd go to the fireworks stand and get jumping jacks and Roman candles, and we'd throw them at each other for fun. And that was
Wait a minute.
Time.
You throw the Roman candles at you for fun?
No, well, we shoot Roman candles at each other, but we throw jumping jacks at each other. In fact, just for fun, for fights and stuff. For fun, not fighting, just screwing around, drinking beers, throwing fireworks at each other. That was pretty fun times. I remember that. And I don't know, what would it be, Kevin, if there was no fireworks? If you got your way and they said, no fireworks in Boise, Idaho, everybody be quiet on the board, but just sit and watch them on TV or something in some other city.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have a state law against selling aerial fireworks that is neutered, Eric, because they don't enforce it. They scare people, and yet they're shooting them off. So get rid of the law.
They enforce it. The cops, they do enforce it somewhat. But if you stand up if you go out in any given town around here, you go out and look around, there's so many aerial fireworks going off everywhere. The cops can't be everywhere at once. Now,
get
they
a big
do
bus.
drive
I'd
around.
say get a big. I'd say get a big bus. I'm sorry, Eric. Get a big bus and haul everybody away.
Now, Kevin, come on. This is America. You may not like fireworks. You may not like weed, but some of us here in America do.
I don't like fireworks or weed. I don't have a problem with fireworks. I have a problem with amateurs shooting them off when there's a law against it at 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night. Tell me, how does that benefit freedom? Tell me.
I agree.
Yeah.
After a certain time, it does get annoying, and I kind of agree with if somebody lights them off and starts a fire, they should be in trouble for that because they need to be safe with them. But I know it's illegal, but I like walking outside and looking around everywhere and seeing everybody lighting them off. It's kind of cool.
It reminds you of when you were young.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric?
But I just wanted to say that, and I love your show. I love you. You're awesome for the Valley here. Even though you don't like fireworks or weed, that's okay because I still like you. We pretty much agree on everything else.
All right, Eric.
All right, baby.
Take care.
Have a great day.
You too. Love you. Thank you.
Love you too.
All right, our great friend Eric. Now, look, I like fireworks. Dave Petzo. Hey, you going to go downtown Boise to watch the fireworks? Nope. Got them in my neighborhood. Do you have them in your neighborhood? Then why do we have a law against aerial fireworks being sold and used? That's next. First, traffic, weather, and coming up, Fox News. And then, who do we have here? It's our little bucket of joy, otherwise known as the Sweet Prince of the Treasure Valley. We'll hear from him coming up as well. And taking more of your phone calls. If you're just tuning in, talking a little bit about the inept blue wave that will not impact Idaho, number one. Number two, boom, boom, boom. Whatever happened to the law against aerial fireworks? Is that time for that to go, along with the British? Fox News next, and you're home for Fox News, KIDO Talk Radio.